Namaskar everybody and welcome to our Gita Satsang for today. Let us start with the shlokas. Prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let us chant the shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतः क्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः रामानुजदया पात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुग्म व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. So with prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us start our topic for today. So in the previous satsang, we had seen up to the 32nd verse, and in that we noticed that Krishna was going on telling about how yoga abhyasa is done, what are the different types of yogi, in what stages they are and how they behave. Now, after listening to all this, from the 33rd shloka, 33 and 34, these two shlokas, Arjuna is asking some questions. By listening to whatever Krishna has described, he gets this feeling that it is going to be very difficult to practice whatever Krishna has told. What is the reason for that? He asks his questions in these two shlokas. So in the 33rd shloka, Arjuna says, Arjuna uvacha yoyam yogastvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat stiram. So he's telling Krishna, this yoga, what you have preached, that yoga of samatva, of equanimity, which has been taught by you, O Krishna. He's calling Krishna as Madhusudana here. O Krishna, whatever this yoga you have been teaching me so far, I cannot imagine that it is possible for us to steadily, continuously do this because of the restlessness of the mind. So what Arjuna is saying here is that you have spoken all that is very nice to listen to, but according to me, I feel that this is going to be very difficult to practice. What is this which is difficult to practice? The yoga of samatva, the yoga of equanimity. Now, Krishna, why is Arjuna saying this to Krishna? Why he feels that this is difficult? He attributes this to the restlessness of the mind. He says, because the mind is restless, that is why it is going to be very difficult to have the mind calm enough to be able to practice this yoga. What is it that Krishna had told? He said that you should learn to see that all jivatmas are same. And you should be able to also see that jivatma and paramatma are same in so many attributes, in so many gunas. Now, Krishna has told that we should be able to see that all jivatmas are same. But in reality, the common average human being, are we able to see that? That is what Arjuna is asking. He's saying, in reality, we don't see that all jivatmas are same. We only go on noticing all the difference. At any given point of time, we don't think that all of us are same. Do we say that I and my neighbor are same, I and my colleague are same, I and my husband, my wife, my child? Do we see everybody as same? No, we notice differences all the time. Like we learn to classify things. We say these are human beings, we are human beings, those are animals, plants, objects, inanimate objects. Like that, we see differences there. We don't notice that inside all of these, there is Jivatma, right? If our mind had to be really so much focused on the Atma, then we would have seen in everything that we are seeing, we would have been able to notice that it is only the Atma. The Sharira is different, but inside everything there is the same Jivatma. Like Jivatma is there in everybody. But we are not able to see that. We are only seeing the external Sharira. we are seeing the body, and therefore that means that we can't see the oneness of all the Atmas. Now, if our mind had to be focused on only Atma, let us say we are doing yoga abhyasa for some time, let us say we are doing meditation for some time, for that much time, our mind is focused on the Atma. If that state had to continue at all times, we would have been able to understand the oneness of all the Atmas. But our mind is not like that. Even for that time, little time that we sit for meditation, our mind is always restless and jumping. If we sit down and say we are doing dhyana, we are doing japa, whatever it may be, our mind is only jumping from one to the other object, isn't it? One to other thought. I have so many things to do. What are all my list of things to be done? What work I have to complete? What somebody said to me? What I said to them? What I should have said to them? Like this, our mind keeps restlessly jumping from one to the other topic. And that means it is not able to focus. And because it does not have the necessary focus, it cannot see samatva. It cannot see everybody as being equal. So here Arjuna is pointing out that because the mind is restless, we are not able to see equally. So how is it, Krishna, that what you are telling, is it going to be easy? I have a doubt about that. I feel that what you are telling is very difficult to practice. Right. Now, another thing is that one what we talked so far is this uh, human being, like we, when we see our mind is restless, we are not able to see that all jivatmas are alike. Similarly, actually, there is equality between the Jivatma and Paramatma. In the previous satsang, we have talked about those 8 qualities in which the Atma and the Paramatma are same, except for the fact that Paramatma is Shriyapati and he has the ability to create and sustain and dissolve this universe. Other all gunas, the Atma, this Jivatma, when it gets mukti, it will attain all those same qualities of the Lord, except for those two. But that means that Atma and Paramatma are also having Samya somewhere. But are we able to see that? We are not able to see. Why? Because that kind of equality we will be able to comprehend only after we get mukti. Till we are living in this samsara, we are caught up here. We are, in this continuous cycle of sukha, dukkha, and on so on. We are at the mercy of our indriyas and our manas. So we cannot practice this quality of seeing everything as sama. So that is why Arjuna is saying that because of this, I think what you are telling is very difficult. Now, in the next sloka, he goes further and he clarifies even more that why he thinks that this mind is not going to be able to do this. So he says, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramathi balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. So he's telling Krishna, why I'm saying this, that it is difficult to have this samatva, this yoga of equanimity, because for the mind is fickle, O Krishna. The mind is fickle, that means it is chanchala. Then it is turbulent. It is having this quality of pramati. It is powerful and it is stubborn. And according to me, I feel that it is as difficult to control the mind as it is to control the wind. So the mind is having these properties. It is fickle, it is turbulent, it is powerful, and it is stubborn. Therefore, I feel that just as one cannot control the wind, we cannot control our mind also. This is what he is telling. This, whatever Arjuna is telling, is the practical aspect about mind control. Because he is a human being and he has gone through all these things, he's talking about this. Of course, we know that Arjuna was at a very high and superior level. He had so much Indriya Nigraha. We know that. He had so much Mano Nigraha. We know that. But still, why is it that he's asking this on our behalf? Actually, what Arjuna is asking is our problem. Arjuna may not have had much difficulty in controlling the mind, but people like us, we definitely have difficulty with mind control because the nature of our mind is that it is fickle. When we say fickle, when we say the mind is chanchala, what does it mean? It means that it is always running after something or the other. It is never steady and staying quietly in one place. Moreover, not only does it run behind this and that, it has this property that always it will keep changing its outlook. At one given point of time, I will feel that something is favorable to me. That same thing at some other point of time, I will feel that it is not favorable to me. Today I will like something. Tomorrow that same thing, if it is given to me, I may not like it. Today, when somebody behaves a particular way to me, I feel happy about it. Tomorrow, when somebody behaves to me like that, I may get angry with them. So this mind is always changing. Between days, it changes. Between different times, it changes. Between seasons, it will change. And in the same day, also, the same person may change their mind to different degrees. There are some people who have too much chanchalata. There may be some people who have less amount of fickleness. But ultimately, the nature of the mind is to be fickle, to be running after this and that, and to keep changing its outlook at all times. That is what is meant by saying that mind is fickle. Secondly, he says the mind is turbulent. So it is so, like restless and moving around and chaotic at all times. And it has this supreme quality that whatever we are doing, our mind has a way of convincing us that what we are doing is right. Many times our conscience will tell us from somewhere that you are thinking like this is not correct. You are behaving like this is not correct. But our mind will find ways to justify that what we are doing is right. That is why he is saying that the mind is turbulent. Then he says that the mind is very powerful. Why he is saying it is powerful? Because even we know that our indriyas, our senses are very powerful. They can pull us here and there. But even more powerful than those indriyas is the mind. Because sometimes we notice that if we see certain objects, then we have a desire to enjoy those objects. Right? So that is because our indriyas are getting attached to those objects. But many times we notice that even if the object is not in front of us, just the memory of that, just remembering about something. There are so many people who say that, oh, suddenly I felt like eating ice cream, so I ordered it on Swiggy or Zomato and I had that. So that ice cream was not in front of them, but the mind created that thought and that desire. So stronger than the indriyas and far more powerful is the mind. So Arjuna is saying the mind is powerful. And then the mind has another quality, that it is very stubborn. Stubborn means it will stick on to whatever it has caught hold of. And it is very difficult to divert the mind once it gets interested in some particular thing. So many times we have noticed in this world that whatever it is told that it is bad for us, we want to enjoy those things only. Whatever is told that it is not good for us, the mind has a tendency to get attached to that only. And once it gets attached to that, it is very difficult to divert it from that. There are so many people in this world, we know they have addictions to smoking, to alcohol. Those are very gross externally what we can see, those kind of addictions. But then what about other people? There are so many people who are addicted to eating particular types of food. There are some people who are addicted to a particular way of doing things. There are some people who are addicted to TV, to their phone, to social media, and so on. People get attached. It is, and once the mind gets attached to that particular thing, once the mind has got used to having its way and doing whatever it wants just the way it wants, then it is very difficult to divert that mind from that. That is why Arjuna is saying that it is stubborn. So knowing that these properties are there, all these properties make the mind very powerful. So what happens is that if the mind is fickle, it is turbulent, it is powerful, and it is stubborn, it is like saying that suppose there is a whirlwind which is blowing. I think what in Kannada is called as a birgadi. So if there is a whirlwind which is blowing, it is, catching up and throwing this side and that side everything in its path. So when that whirlwind is blowing, can I say that I will hold a fan in my hand? You know, that kind of fan which we were using in the past when we didn't have electricity to, blow air during the summer season. People will use that. So can I use a fan like that to change the direction of the whirlwind? That is definitely not possible. So, like that, when the mind is so turbulent and so fickle and running this side and that side and stubbornly attached to things, that is so powerful that by saying I will do yoga, it is like holding that small hand fan. Can I change the direction of the whirlwind with my hand fan? I cannot. Similarly, saying that I will try to focus my mind and do yoga and I will change the nature of my mind, when that mind is so powerful, it is highly impossible. So, how is it possible that by doing this kind of yoga, I will control my mind? This is what Arjuna is more specifically asking here. Now, he feels that Krishna has told that the yogi who is at this level is like that, the yogi in the intermediate level is having some other quality. Like that, Krishna has told about many different yogis in different stages of yoga. So That is fine for the yogis because they have at least some level of mind control. But what about ordinary person? We don't have the ability to control the mind like them. So Krishna, now Arjuna is asking Krishna that you have told all these things, but I feel, in my opinion, because the nature of the mind is to be fickle and turbulent and powerful and stubborn, it's very difficult. It is not possible at all. It is impossible to control the mind. This is what Arjuna poses the question to him. Now, whenever somebody, if we are trying to teach people about something and then they bring up some practical difficulty, then the smart teacher is the one who doesn't say, no, no, what you are saying is not correct. The smart teacher is the one who agrees with whatever difficulty that person is presenting and then slowly tries to explain another point of view. So we know that Krishna is the smartest of all teachers. So that is what he does next. So in the 35th shloka, Krishna talks to Arjuna. He acknowledges whatever Arjuna has been saying so far and he tells him something more than that. So in the 35th shloka, Sri Bhagavanuvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodurnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grihyate. So he says, O Arjuna, O Mahabaho, he's calling Arjuna by this name, Mahabaho. O Mahabaho, undoubtedly what you say is correct. There is no doubt that what you are saying is true. The mind is very hard to put it down. It is very hard to subdue the mind. And yes, what you said is true. The mind is fickle. But, O Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, by repeated practice, abhyasa, by repeated practice, and vairagya, by the exercise of vairagya, dispassion, it is possible to bring the mind under control. So in this shloka, what we are seeing is, first, in the first part of the shloka, Krishna is agreeing with whatever Arjuna said. So he says, yes, whatever you told is definitely correct. And then we notice here the acharyas point out that Krishna is using this word Mahabaho for Arjuna. Why he is saying that? So here the acharyas explain that it is like, a kind of sarcastic way of addressing Arjuna. Krishna is trying to say that, oh Arjuna, you are a Mahabali, you are a Mahabahu, isn't it? You are a great warrior. And you who are so great, you can win over Drona, you can win over Kripacharya, you can win over all the other warriors who are on this battlefield. But you cannot win the mind so easily. So, what exactly is your nature of being Mahabahu? So, sarcastically, Krishna is saying that to Arjuna. That is why he is using this word Mahabahu. Because in the previous two shlokas, Arjuna has been saying it is very difficult to control the mind is turbulent, the mind is fickle, this, that. So now Krishna says, oh, you are supposed to be Mahabahu. You are supposed to be the warrior who easily wins over all other warriors. But then you also are saying that you cannot win the mind so easily. So actually, are you really Mahabahu? That kind of sarcastic question Krishna seems to be asking here. Then he's agreeing with Arjuna in the first part of the shloka that yes, what you said is true. No doubt, it is very difficult because the mind is fickle, the mind is powerful, the mind is stubborn. It's very difficult to control the mind. And then he goes further and says, yet, if you really try, there is a solution for this. What is the solution for mind control? Repeatedly practicing control and by practicing vairagya. So, what is this practice? That every time you notice your mind is running away to some other object, you pull the mind back from the external world and bring it to focus on the Atma. So, that is what is the meaning of saying that abhyasa. So, repeated practice. By doing that, you keep pulling the mind back from wherever it has run and you bring it back to focus on the Atma. That is called as abhyasa. And what is vairagya? Vairagya means to reduce the desires towards things which are there in this world. So now, right now, what is our situation? That our mind is running here and there. Where is the mind running? It is running behind all the objects in this world. Why it is running behind those objects? Because there is a lot of desire to procure that object, to own those objects, and to enjoy those objects. So that desire to enjoy is there. If we are wanting to cut down the mind running to those objects, to those desires, we have to reduce our want. We have to reduce our desires towards the things in this world. And when we do that, gradually the mind will stop running there. See, if I have a desire to enjoy a movie, to enjoy watching a movie, I like watching movies. So every time there's a new movie which is released, my mind runs there and says, okay, I want to go and watch this movie. Suppose I manage to by repeated practice, I managed to get rid of the desire for the movie. I don't have any desire to see that movie. What will happen? My mind will stop running there. So, like this, every single thing in this world that attracts me, I have to cut down my attachment to that. So, by repeatedly practicing to bring the mind back, and by gradually building up our quality of vairagya, we can we can hope to achieve some level of mind control. And how is it that you reduce the desire towards things in this world? We must learn to see, we must repeatedly contemplate and think about the negatives of these things. What is the downside of these things? If it is that I like to eat some particular type of food, then what is the negative aspect of that food? How can that damage me? How can that prove to be unhealthy for me? I must think about that. If there is something else in this world that I like there are people who have a desire for smoking and alcohol, they must think about the negative effects of those. If we are overly attached to people, we must remember that these same people today whom I am feeling so much attachment for, tomorrow they are going to say something to me, they are going to do something which will hurt me. In the past also they may have done that already. So I must remind myself of all those things. So repeatedly by thinking about what are the negative aspects of all these things that I'm running after, by thinking about that, it is going to be possible for me to develop vairagya. So by repeated practice, by abhyasa and by vairagya, by these two, it is possible to control the mind. That is what Krishna says. Now he goes further and he says, asamyat असंयत्तात्मना योगो दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुमुपायतः. So he says, in my opinion, this kind of a yoga, this kind of harmony is hard to attain by a person who is having an unrestrained mind. However, it can be attained through skillful means by one who strives for it and has a subdued mind. Now, if we notice here, very nicely, Krishna has now changed the topic. He has taken the point that Arjuna started with and he's turned it around. So, Arjuna said, the mind is very fickle, the mind is very powerful. It is not possible with a mind like that. We cannot control the mind. And if we can't control the mind, then what yoga we can do? That is what Arjuna said. So here Krishna says, after telling him in the previous shloka that you should practice repeatedly and you should develop vairagya, after telling him that, he says, in my opinion, yes, what you told is correct. This yoga is very difficult to attain. But for whom? Not for everybody. For people who have an uncontrolled mind, those whose mind is unrestrained, it is difficult for them. But if you are very skillful, if you have tried very hard, if you have put in a lot of hard work and you have subdued your mind, then it is possible to reach this level of yoga. So somebody who has not controlled mind will find it very difficult to attain yoga. Such a person cannot have this level of samadarshana, of seeing everybody just in terms of the atma within them. In fact, the same thing has been talked about by the Alvars. They sing in their Divya Prabandha. They say that there are five great thieves which are troubling me in this world. And there is one even bigger thief who is the controller of all of them. The five great thieves are these five indriyas. And then the mind is there, the bigger thief of all of them. He is the leader of them all. So all these five senses and the mind have to be controlled if we have to reach the level of Samadarshana. So what is it that somebody has to do again to cultivate, to get to this stage of Samadarshana? Krishna has said, if somebody has controlled their mind, it is possible. And how to control the mind? He told in the previous shloka, by repeated practice, by abhyasa, and by dispassion, by vairagya. By cultivating these things, one can control the mind. But just merely doing all this is not going to be sufficient. So here in this shloka, Krishna is saying that using the upaya. What is that upaya that he's talking about? The favorite upaya that Krishna has been talking about so far, doing karma yoga. So what Krishna is saying that if you just sit quietly in one place and say, I will control the mind and I will cultivate vairagya and I will do repeated practice, it is not going to be possible or very easy for me to control the mind. So what you need to do is you do karma yoga. follow the upaya, follow this method. What is that method? You follow Karma Yoga. We already have seen in the previous chapters, in the previous shlokas also, that what he means by Karma Yoga: do all the actions which are expected to be done of you. Do all those things which, as per your role in life, presently you are supposed to do. But do them with the idea that they are being done by Lord through you. Do not expect any fruit by doing that action for your own enjoyment. Do it for the pleasure of the Lord. Do it for the purpose that doing this will make the Lord happy and he will grant me moksha. When you start doing all your karma in that way, that is what is karma yoga. So what Krishna is telling here is that start practicing karma yoga. Keep practicing karma yoga. When you do this, your mind stays focused on that action which you are doing. Then the mind will stop running here and there. When the mind stops running here and there, you can then control the mind. Then it is easy for you to focus the mind on the Atma. And when you do this, you will attain Samadarshana. You will be able to see that in everybody and everything in this universe, there is Jivatma. All are Atmas only. And later, you will be able to also attain the stage where you are able to see that Atma and Paramatma are also the same. So you keep practicing like this, and the key to that is to practice Karma Yoga. That is what Krishna is telling here. So today we have covered these 4 shlokas. We saw how Arjuna raised questions about the mind being difficult to control because it is fickle and very strong. And Krishna agreed with him initially and later took him to the next stage by telling him that yes, mind is difficult to control, but if you have repeated practice and if you attain Vairagya, then it is possible. And then now in this shloka, he has told him that do karma yoga, and as you keep doing it, you will find it easy to control the mind. So the answer is that although the mind is difficult to control, if we are able to do our karma as karma yoga, then it becomes easy to control that mind. And for somebody who has attained mind control, samadarshana is very easy to them. Then it is no longer difficult or impossible to achieve. So we will stop here for today with this shloka, and we will meet again next week, next Friday, and continue to see what is it that Krishna is explaining further to Arjuna. So as we end the satsang, let us offer gratitude, kritagnyata, at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru. Let us thank them for inspiring us to start this satsang, to join this satsang, and may their blessings and grace always be on us. Thank you everybody for joining in, and we will meet again tomorrow, same time. Sorry, not tomorrow, next week, Friday again at the same time. Namaskar.